committee meeting. So we do have one item on the agenda tonight, and administratively, I know we have some outstanding meeting minutes. There was a meeting minute that was not distributed yet for last month's meeting, but I do think there's an outstanding one for April. So I don't know if, well, let me double check. I'm not even sure we have a quorum yet. So we might have to hold that off anyway, but let's see here. Yeah, let's hold off that discussion. And it might even be best to just wait for when we got more people back together. And then we'll kind of wrap up and get these meeting minutes kind of more finalized. And as Tammy said, Michelle was not able to make it tonight. She let me know as well, and so I wasn't able to talk to her about the meeting minutes for last month either. So with that, let's jump into the application that's before us tonight. We have the Taco Bell special exception amendment.
Rob, can I interrupt you for a second? Are we being recorded? Because we do need to have minutes from this meeting. Are we being recorded?
Yes, I started the recording.
Thank you so very much.
Thanks, Trudy. Thanks, Tammy, for that reminder. Yeah, we do like to record these meetings and then try to issue meeting minutes accordingly. So so we have the Taco Bell application in Reston, special exception amendment, I believe the application is. I know we have a number of folks that are on the line tonight. Matt Roberts, I see you. You're plugged in. I recognize you as the applicant's representative, and maybe you can introduce your team and your representatives, and I'll hand it off to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for having us. Nice to be here this evening. Hope everybody is doing well. As Rob said, we do have a bunch of different folks from our team this evening. I am Matt Roberts. I'm an attorney at Hirschler Fleischer. With me this evening is Joe DePascal with Summerwood Corporation, as well as a few folks from Pannoni, Dave Stiegler, Greg Kim, and Doug Kennedy. Pannoni is handling the civil landscaping and traffic engineering for the project. If it's all right with you, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can't share my screen without a whole lot of hassle here. And make sure that everybody can see what we need to see. All right, well, hopefully you are seeing my screen and the presentation is up on your end.
Yep. Yes, we do see your screen.
Very good. Well, again, very quickly, just want to give some background on the applicant. Reston Commerce is owned by its parent company, Summerwood Corporation. They have been in operation since the early 1980s, operating a number of quick service retail facilities up and down the Mid-Atlantic region, including a number of them here in Fairfax County. And that includes Taco Bell franchises within the county and elsewhere in Northern Virginia. They actually recently closed on this site in particular, and now they are the title owner as well. You're probably familiar with the site. You've probably driven past it, perhaps even eaten here before, but just in case, I wanted to give everybody some quick orientation. This is our site right here. We are within what the county has kind of historically called a fast food park. It's inclusive of the McDonald's here as well as the Pupatella restaurant. The site's accessed from Roger Bacon Drive near the intersection with Wheelie Avenue. You can't see it on the screen here, but we're about a half mile from the Wheelie Reston East Metro stop. That whole area that we're within today is largely commercial in nature. As I mentioned, we've got the other restaurants within this site. You've also got office space, Leidos to our east, as well as some additional office, commercial, and retail in the immediate vicinity. I think important to point that out in a way because there's not nearly as much residential in the immediate vicinity of the site as you might have for other sites in Reston. And again, you've probably driven past or eaten here before, but just in case you haven't, the site today is presently constructed with a 2,300 square foot Taco Bell facility, more or less. It's got a single lane
Could I
drive-through.
interrupt you, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Could you make your picture larger? It's very small on our screens. Can you enlarge that or?
Let's see, I'd have to probably click out of this particular presentation. Let me see if I can do that for you, though. See if that's helpful
Yeah.
at all. It's going to be difficult to show it all in one screen at that point, but happy to oblige as best we can. So just kind of scan over the existing site for you. So
If you
existing
don't, if
facility.
it's gonna be tough, never mind, but we're just
Yeah,
seeing a
it's a
tiny
little-
little photo.
Sure. Hopefully it's a little bit better in the PDFs that you received. Unfortunately, sometimes when you have to enlarge it on a screen, it's not quite as good. So let me know if at any point I can zoom in on something for you. Like I said, the site has an existing Taco Bell facility. It's been there since the late 1980s when a special exception was approved for the site. And if you all don't mind, I'm actually going to go back into full screen mode here for a moment. There we go. The site's also zoned I-5. We're not proposing to change that. And that's how you get to an existing special exception for a drive-through facility with a restaurant. Customers enter up near the McDonald's entrance off of Roger Bacon Drive, which is a little bit off screen in that site plan. We'll see it in a moment. There's a series then of shared access aisles that exist under a private set of easements for the property that's shared by the McDonald's, the Popatellas, and then the Taco Bell facility. Folks would enter up near the McDonald's, ingress through the site to about the midpoint, and then they have to cross two aisles of traffic to get into the drive-through facility, which is immediately across from that access aisle presently today. Either that or sort of less frequently and increasingly less frequently, which is somewhat the impetus for this application, folks may park in any of the 38 parking spaces on this side. And then enter the building to pick up their orders that they've placed online, or even less frequently staying and actually eating in the facility today. On site today, there's about 64 seats, and then, as I mentioned, about 38 parking spaces today. And so this is what we'd ultimately like to do with the site. We're planning to demolish the existing facility that's there, the existing restaurant, take that down and construct a new modern Taco Bell. Again, this is a sort of design that you've probably seen once or twice before. It's the current model for Taco Bell restaurants in the Mid-Atlantic region, and most new Taco Bells that you see will have this sort of design. Ultimately, two goals for the site, like I said, one is to create this new restaurant, and the other is to add a new drive-through lane to accommodate the increasing customer usage of the drive-through facilities. Probably not surprisingly, that's something that was trending upward and ultimately increasing significantly during the pandemic. This facility that you're looking at is going to be roughly 25 feet tall. And then ultimately a series of materials, largely gray fiber cement paneling, then with some accents for some metal panels, some purple paneling as well, and then ultimately the corporate signage that you're probably very familiar with for Taco Bell. We're going to accomplish all that by filing the present application, which is a special exception amendment. Again, the site's zoned I-5, so the existing special exception can be amended to accommodate the new restaurant and drive-through facilities. We'll ultimately be building a slightly larger facility with this. It's about 2,700 square feet, more or less. That's really not new restaurant space. It's not it's not new customer space. It's really to accommodate a larger freezer on site than what would exist today. And so that's that's how you get a slightly bigger facility than what you have there currently. Still, A very low overall impact in terms of density. We're talking going from a 0.06 FAR today to 0.07 FAR in the new situation. Also have a fairly limited impact on traffic. Projection overall is to increase about 6%, and that's really just based on the overall increase in size of the facility. We're actually decreasing the number of overall seats within the interior of the building. Doug Kennedy can talk a little bit more about that if you're interested this evening. Do want to give a quick sense though of the proposed site plan, because I think this helps kind of illustrate what we're doing here. I'm not going to focus too heavily on this one. I kind of want to show you the pretty picture because it gives you the same overall outline. We can flip back and forth as we need to. But here's the rendered site plan for what we're proposing in the future. Ultimately, a big feature that's different than today is these two the two drive-through lanes and a bypass lane that are getting moved to the sort of southern end of the site. The interior access points do not change. Those are set up through private easements between all three properties, as I mentioned. So folks would continue to access, and so would McDonald's customers and the like, either off Wheelie Avenue at the Popatella's restaurant or coming in off of Roger Bacon Drive, entering those shared drive aisles. And then ultimately, I think a better condition than trying to cross two lanes to get into the drive-through, making a right out and then ultimately entering the site through basically where there's no interaction with other vehicles other than folks who are coming into the Taco Bell site. And so the reason to increase the number of drive-through lanes actually becomes kind of obvious when you understand the usage of the site. Today, the existing facility actually operates with about 79% of its peak hour transactions happening through the drive-through facility. That's a number that's been increasing over time, which we only really expect to increase. That's really a common trend in quick service retail usage. And so, by expanding those drive-through lanes, we're hoping to alleviate, any of the sort of internal circulation pressure that comes from increased drive-through usage, rather than folks, parking and entering the facility as they might have, in 1988. And so that's, to us, an ultimately overall better situation. And added a bypass lane because in the end, for folks who have entered the drive-through and decide that they don't want to do this any longer, they get a call, they'll realize they need something different, they have the ability to exit back out to Roger Bacon Drive and leave the facility fairly quickly. With that revitalization of the site, we're also going to be lowering the internal number of seats to 52 and have a limited number of seats in the exterior patio. And ultimately, we'll be proposing about 23 parking spaces in the ultimate condition. And I think, as you probably saw on the previous slide, we're hoping to operate between 7 a.m. to 2 a.m., which are sort of traditional hours for Taco Bell facilities. Some good news that I think comes with this: we can actually accomplish all of this with 30% on-site open space. And so that's a mix of what you see around the perimeter of the site, as well as interior landscaping. So I-5 requires 15%. We're doubling that. We're pretty happy with that. And as some of the folks with Pannoni can also tell you, we'll also be accomplishing improved stormwater on site, urban soil remediation when we take down this building, and what we're able to do within the driveways and drive aisles. And so overall, we think this is a pretty good proposal that helps alleviate some of what we've seen as the increasing pressure on drive-throughs, especially at this facility, and start getting at some of the goals that the county wants for the ultimate condition of sites in the area. Again, improving on-site open space, increasing stormwater management capacity, and the like. So I wanted to kind of keep this short because it's really a fairly simple case overall, but I'm sure that there are going to be a lot of questions and a good discussion. So with that, thanks very much, and we're here to answer any questions and take any comments you have.
All right. Well, thank you, Matt. Yeah, as you said, the facility is an existing facility. One of the things I think you're going to hear from some of the committee members and is the traffic situation, and I know you have Doug with you tonight. I think some of the traffic is obviously not just coming from Taco Bell. I think a lot of us see the McDonald's drive-through stacking up onto Wheelie Avenue, and I'll just tee that up for Doug to be thinking about that when we talk. As I understand it, you submitted a traffic study waiver, which I think that was more in response to the traditional VDOT requirement for a traffic study that is sometimes required for special exceptions. And so there is a difference sometimes between the requirement of that type of study as it relates to an intensification of use versus just simply looking at what's going on in the particular neighborhood and then trying to address some of the traffic woes and how this project will directly relate to that. So,
Sure.
So I just throw that out there as one of the topics that I'm sure is going to come up tonight. So we had a number of different committee members who were not able to make it tonight. I'll just throw out for Bill Penniman. Getting a little bit of feedback here. If everybody can make sure you mute if you're not speaking. Bill Penniman was concerned that this is in the the transit station area of Wheelie Avenue, and shared a concern that the comp plan, our Reston master plan, is actually promoting uses that require less reliance on vehicles, and so he has concerns over a new drive-through and an intensification of an existing drive-through, as opposed to thinking we should be going the opposite way and trying to eliminate car usage in the transit station areas. So I'll just throw that out there as one of the members who's not here tonight, his comments. But from there, let me throw it over to Mike Jennings to see if Mike has any comments.
Yes, I do. I guess I will say that I have a problem, providing another drive-through lane in an area that's already got issues. And one of the questions I had about the study, the traffic study, was, I understand you used the traffic trip engineer manual, although the one you used has already been replaced by an 11th edition, so I don't know if that would make any difference, because you used the 10th edition. But the average trips were for a drive-through restaurant that you got from this manual. Does it take account that you have 2 drive-through lanes, and should you be doubling the number of? I just don't know how the fact that there are 2 drive-through lanes affects the numbers that you pull from the manual.
Sure. I'm going to ask Doug Kennedy to speak up on that because he's our resident expert.
Yeah, I can speak to it just to give you an overview. In the first question, the new manual did come out while this study was being scoped out. So it was last fall. I did check the numbers. The number of studies are reduced because they kick some data out for AM peaks with the new 11th edition. But the trips will change by 1 car. And so since it's an incremental change, I don't really see that being an impact with the new studies. But in terms of your second question, the trip rates, and in terms of what we looked at it, we looked at the trips for the site based on 2 variables, one based on the building size and one based on the number of seats. The data in ITE doesn't segregate based on the number of drive-through lanes like a drive-in bank does for fast food uses. The studies do say there are studies with 1 or 2 drive-throughs, but it doesn't distinguish a trip rate per seat or trip rate per 1,000 square foot based on the number of drive-through lanes. And the data set is fairly large and robust. There's probably over 70 to 120 sites that have been looked at and published in ITE over the last couple of years for fast food drive-throughs.
Okay, understood. I guess I would the only other comment then is that I guess I would prefer that there actually be some on-site, traffic counting of this site to see what's really happening there. Because I don't know. It's just, the other places where we have a couple drive-throughs, like, and I know this restaurant I'm going to mention may be more popular in and of itself, but the Chick-fil-A over on Sunset Hills near the YMCA and Target, they're back. They have 2 drive-through lanes and they're backed up onto Sunset Hills at some points in time. So I just would rather see a traffic study that uses some real live data to substantiate what you're saying is such a modest increase. It's a little bit hard for some of us to believe. So that's all I have.
Mike, I can just jump in. We did, as part of the study, this is Doug Kenny with Pannoni, we did actually did take parking counts out there because we wanted to justify in terms of some of the transit reductions that we did not believe that we needed to have so much on-site parking for the uses and for the activities. So there were studies that were done last year that were used to help develop the site plan requirements and justify to the county DOT that the parking would be adequate to go from the 38 spaces down to the 24. As part of that work, we went through during the peak period times, or actually another firm did, who's done these studies in the mid-Atlantic area, and found out that the parking observed was not exceeding in terms of what we're proposing. And secondly, they did look at, when they're going through, what the back of the queues were. We actually were on site and did look at some of the queues and never saw the queues extending past the existing drive-through areas. But we did not provide traffic counts at Roger Bacon as part of the studies.
Well, then that might suggest maybe you don't need 2 lanes if the queue can handle it already. But again, I don't want to I've already taken up enough time. Thanks, Doug.
Thanks, Mike. Let me go to David and or Sue, whoever wants to go first there.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. I reviewed your materials, and certainly we would support and strongly recommend that you do follow up on leads construction. That would be great. DRB and RTCA review, you had declined from that. And I know you need to follow national chain, a facade, et cetera, but I think there has to be some negotiation since you are in Reston. And so I would like to see you have the plans run by DRB. In terms of public art, we always like to see public art commitment. Also a contribution to athletic field fund. I don't think you were committing to that. In terms of notifying adjacent clusters, Chestnut Grove cluster, I'm wondering whether you contacted and provided information for the management company there, or whether you actually spoke with residents. I think it's very important to speak with the cluster representatives who represent the cluster and have a meeting to see if they have any concerns about lighting or glare or traffic. And my last item is, it seemed that you are basing the 2 drive-through lanes on amendment that was done in June 10th of 1986, in which it was mostly commercial surrounding your food facilities and McDonald's, et cetera. But that's changing. And so it is going to 75% residential and 25% commercial. Just across the street, you're going to have, instead of Isaac Newton Square, many homeowners. You're going to have an athletic field. So you have an athletic field with, players and spectators, and you have the OD trail running through there. And all of these people perhaps could come by foot or by bicycle on OD trail to your restaurant. And so I really think you need to reconsider the 2 drive-throughs to how you could make the new Taco Bell accommodate these changes of many more residents. That's all I had.
Okay. Yeah, I've just got a couple of quick questions. First of all, what do you have any idea or any specific information on how you are going to handle water on site, rain and all that stuff, green roof, anything like that?
In terms of stormwater?
Yeah.
That'd be the leads.
Yeah, Dave Stigler, you're on the line.
Sure. In fact, I'm going to share my screen. Let's see if I'll
I'm
have better
gonna
luck
stop
making things a little more visual. Can you see that?
Not yet.
Should be coming soon.
There it is.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the new layout, and what I've highlighted in red here, there's 2 systems that. Well, let me start by saying that the site breaks the natural fall, the topography for the site. It goes in 2 different directions. Half the site goes in this direction, goes out to a existing underground stormwater system, and the other side of the site, the southern side, goes out in this direction. So today, there's 2 existing underground pipes that handle the stormwater, and we're going to look to see if they're in good shape, and if they are, we'll maintain them. If they're not, we'll go ahead and replace them. So that'll we're only slightly increasing the imperviousness on the site. I think like 4%. So it's basically negligible. It's a wash basically as to the same amount of imperviousness. But then we are putting in these spaces right here to handle water quality. We're making these spaces pervious pavers, these 12 spaces here. So that'll clean up the water that goes to those spaces about an area that looks like this.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I think also back to the green roof idea. Are you planning anything? Does the National Corporation allow you to do something like that?
I don't think so. I've never been asked that question, though. Joe, can you respond to that?
Yeah, we do not use any green roofs, excuse me, currently. The square footage of that building is, excuse me, 2,700 square feet. Between rooftop units and everything else that's up there, it's not a huge area to be able to get benefit out of a green roof. The only green roofs I've done, and Dave and the Pannoni guys may have done more, was on a supermarket that was 100,000 square feet. In this small building, I'm not certain that I could achieve anything up there. But corporately, Taco Bell corporate doesn't do it. We in our franchise do not have any at this point. And again, if we needed something, perhaps we would talk about that. But I think what Dave's telling you is we can handle the increase in our stormwater and water quality without having to do something like that.
That's correct, Joe. And I just want to add too that our requirement for water quality is, and this might make some sense to some people, about 0.8 pounds per year, or 0.18 pounds per year, and what we're providing is 0.42 pounds per year. So it's really we're greatly exceeding the requirement for the county's requirement for providing water quality.
David, any
Dave,
other?
I think you're on mute there.
I'm on mute.
No, I'm
he'll-
sorry, David. Yes, David Sue.
Yeah, David Vanel, any
Am I
more?
okay now?
Yes.
Okay, I think you should take a look at it and see what you can do. The other issue is pedestrian and bike access to this place, especially with the increased number of residences across and diagonally northwest of where you are. And could you address how that's going to happen? Not just pedestrian movement in your site, but pedestrian movement from Wheelie Avenue or the WNOD Trail or Roger Bacon Drive into your site.
Matt, do you want me to handle
Yeah,
that
if you
as
don't
well?
mind, I think
Sure,
off the top, I would just simply say that, if it would be helpful if Dave, since he's sharing his screen, can kind of point out where the property line is, because there's a portion of this
right here.
that we control, sort of on the, I guess, eastern end of Roger Bacon Drive. And then, obviously the county's has its ongoing trail project that's going to impact access on that end as well. But I think Dave will tell you a little bit about what we're trying to do with increasing the sidewalks as well as the interior access on the portion of the site that we control.
Yeah, what I'm trying to draw at least, our property line. So we really are kind of handicapped with what we can do on our property to improve the pedestrian experience to get to the site. I want to start by saying there are sidewalks along Wheelie in Roger Bacon. Now our frontage here will be taking out the 4-foot sidewalk and putting in a 6-foot sidewalk in accordance with the Reston's comp plan. And with this switchback here will make it barrier free to get up there to the front. The crosswalk will be at the sidewalk level, like a raised crosswalk, so there'll be no ramps there. But as far as additional sidewalks through the site, I mean, we would require cooperation of other home landowners. One thing I want to point out too is that the trail project you guys might know about is proposed to be a flyover over Wheelie, and we thought, oh, there's a trail right here, we can just pop right in to our site. Well, it's really not the case, because where the walls start for getting up in the elevation, they start way back here. So there really is no opportunity for and then the on-grade trails on the other side of the walls. So really, people coming off the trail are gonna have to start at Wheelie and make their way around.
I would also add too, there are pedestrian crossings with pedestrian buttons at Roger Bacon and at Wheelie Avenue. So there is a complete sidewalk system for that existing traffic signal we can access to get to the west side.
Thanks, Doug.
I think,
Okay,
as with
well-
anything, we'll continue to work on that with staff, as the application progresses. I mean, it's obviously to our benefit to have people coming to the site and getting there safely. So, I think, good ideas are always, open for consideration.
It might be a good idea to see what you can do about a ramp or a switchback from the elevated trail to your site. Maybe proffer some money for that or something like that. Thank you very much.
Thanks, David. Jake Hovermail.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. With a bigger, my only comments are that with a bigger freezer, so a bigger, you're demolishing the building. So I think it makes sense to improve the drive-through. Now, whether that's a 2-lane drive-through or 1-lane, I don't know if that matters to me, but having it pushed towards the back or the southern edge of the site makes sense just for traffic flow within the site. It just seems to make more sense to me. So again, whether that's 2 or 1 lanes, I think some of the previous comments are worried about an existing or increasing the amount of traffic, the visitors, but it seems to me there's already way too many. It's way over. It's way more busy than it was originally planned for. So in a way, it's kind of helping fix an existing problem. So I don't know if maybe I'm not following the logic, but is this a if you build it, they will come type of thought by having all the increased traffic? It seems like it's going to fix some of the problems that are there already. But for the site, and I know you don't have control of this, but the biggest problem with this site, from what I can see, is that unless you're going north on Wheelie, you only have that one entrance on Roger Bacon into the site, and then you have to share the same entrance to the site that backs up for the McDonald's drive-through. So I mean, there's no fixing that, of course, but as much as you could get people to not go through there and come up off of Wheelie North, make that right and go right in, that seems to me that it would be an improvement.
Yeah, I appreciate the comment. There is a second access near the Popatellas. And I think one thing that we're working on with staff now, and it's again partially an issue of, back in the 80s, having a series of arrangements that may not have thought everything through necessarily. I think it would be great, and I know Joe from Summerwood would agree, if we could get some signage up near Wheelie that kind of talks about how you can actually use this other access here. I'm not sharing my screen so you can't see it, but the initial entrance off of Wheelie, instead of coming all the way up Wheelie to Roger Bacon, there is a second access point. It's a little difficult if you're not looking for it right off the bat. So I think one of the things that we're going to continue to work with staff is there an opportunity to do, what's the best way to manage any proposed signage? Both of these restaurants have signage out there today that tells you they're there, kind of tells you how to access. That's one thing in the sort of immediate future that we might be able to accomplish to handle some of that.
Yeah, right there. I don't know how old that picture is, but unless you know it's there, you'll never know to go in that entrance.
Right, because I mean, the problem is going to be Google's going to take you down to Roger Bacon, push you into Roger Bacon, and or any of your other apps like that. So yeah, this is one thing we might be able to do, and we're looking at it. So great comment.
If you add, you extend that over there, do you have to do the 2 lanes? Is that sort of standard, or is there an option to just keep it as 1? Or if you make the change and you're already doing the expense, do you just make it 2?
Yeah, I'll answer that. We Summerwood, and again, we are a franchisee. We are making all of our new sites double lane. Corporately, Taco Bell wasn't really there as a company, but we have adopted it, and every site that we do new and every site that we scrape like this, we add the second lane. And again, the concept is, let me address Chick for a minute. So Chick does an average of $6 million in sales. Okay, it's ridiculous and outrageous. So our very good stores, of which we have many in the Maryland and Virginia markets, the good ones do 2.5 in sales. So we will never be Chick-fil-A under any circumstance, I don't believe. And the intent here is to push people through the drive-through lanes quicker and easier, and to accommodate. Will we want a bump? Will we expect a bump? Will we hope for a bump in sales? Absolutely. But the reality of it is, it's just the nature of the business now is 80% drive-through. People are not going into the stores. We've done other scenarios where 1 lane is used just for the people that are doing online ordering and or the grub hovers or those people. So there are different mechanisms that will allow us to just take care of our business quicker and easier. And that's the second lane gives us that flexibility. That's really why we're doing it.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, Rob.
Thanks, Jake. Tammy. Tammy, you're on mute.
Thank you. First of all, I'm familiar with the site and made a site visit there today to look at the topography between you and Leidos, and was relieved that Leidos is way below you vertically, so your construction won't damage any of their trees. There's a retaining wall, and you sit above Leidos. I looked at this project from strictly reorienting the traffic backup. Having 2 lanes has nothing to do with the restaurant, in my view, except that it's more stack area for people patronizing Taco Bell. So you don't have people backed up into the McDonald's area. Michelle, who called me and asked me to say this, your new, and this is not my question, this is hers, your new setup will not short Pupatella Pizza of parking area, will it? You're strictly doing it on your property, doesn't affect their parking, is that correct?
Yes.
Correct. There's some shared parking between the sites, but what we're doing would not take anything away from them.
Okay, great. Boo, big boo, bad boo to Taco Bell not paying attention to green purple roofs. Y'all need to get with the program where our climate is changing, and the purple roofs, even if you have a small building, helps insulate your building, keep it cooler. You can have your condensers on the roof with a purple roof. We are getting terrifically different storms here in Reston, and you'll be finding this a lot all across the world. Much more, much more impactful storms. So what you didn't need to do for stormwater management, you do need to do now. And why wouldn't you want to save energy by insulating your roof for your own bottom line? The other point is there are other buildings around you that are going to pop up that are taller than you, and nobody wants to be looking at ugly. So if you have a purple roof, you can, with sedum and whatnot, it looks better. It's not going to be a dirty white roof. So please get on board with that. We are a small committee, but we are adamant about paying attention to climate change and the use of purple roofs. So anybody who's ever come before us is going to get this same treatment. You're not special, but we hope that you will understand and appreciate why it's important. I look at the double line, customer line as being better for bicyclists who do want to order from the window. I don't know if they would prefer to go in and use the bathroom and order at the counter, but I think it's safe for them because it is divided. I love, love, love you have a get out of jail free line that people can get out if they need to leave quickly. I have a question about where I believe your information said all of your deliveries are made when the store is closed. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Where does this freight enter your restaurant? Is it on the side with the diagonal parking spaces?
Where he's
That
showing you
door?
right there on the screen.
Yes, okay.
That's the door. Yep.
Okay. So that's set up so that your big trucks will have access there.
Correct.
Okay,
During the off hours, yep.
great. All righty. Yeah, you've got bike racks, good. I think Sue is absolutely correct in that neighborhood is going to change. I don't think Chestnut Grove is affected at all. Taco Bell's been there forever. And it's just going to be a better, bigger parking, as far as I can see, parking pattern. So I don't think it's going to be something that's going to negatively impact the neighborhood, except that we don't want to look at your ugly roof. So you gotta fix that for real. And your landscaping, please, please, evergreen native plants, please. That's a big deal here in Reston and Fairfax County. Thank you very much for the presentation. Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy.
Thanks, Tammy. Richard Kennedy.
Yes, I did come in a little bit late. I appreciate the discussions that I heard, and I appreciate Bill Penniman's piece that he sent in. But I don't think I have too much anything new to add. The bottom line is that there are now, and there are, I guess, rights to be there for 3 food places, 2 that are going to be very strong in drive-throughs. I've gone through it. It looks like, and I kind of like Taco Bell as an alternative, but they've got a kind of an old-fashioned kind of drive-through, and I can see why they would want to change that. Why they need to tear down the whole building and is another matter, but that's their choice. It probably would be good for the area. So I would just like to second Tammy's comments and suggest that I think I saw someone shaking their head that that's not what we do. And that's too bad, but take a look at it, because sooner or later, you may need to be happy to be a leader. And we've had some good people that can provide some recommendations for you about a more climate oriented roof. That's all I have.
No, we appreciate that comment very much.
So before I jump to Commissioner Carter and or anybody from the public, let me just air a few comments really to kind of reinforce the traffic issue. But let me throw something out there to Dave and Doug and Matt. So the biggest problem in this community right now is the backup really from McDonald's, but then you got to believe that Taco Bell contributes to that a little bit, especially for the people coming south on Wheelie Avenue. They don't have another alternative but turn onto Roger Bacon. So my question has always been, and I don't know how it ended up where it is today, but the second point of access on Roger Bacon, it was converted years ago from two-way road to a one lane out and on your property. And my question would be, if that were converted back to a two-way entrance just for that short section, and force the McDonald's traffic to turn immediately in right and then make another right, could that actually tremendously help the drive-through backup? And then there's more people backing up on Roger Bacon and not so much on Wheelie. So I throw that out there only because this application would be the catalyst to help make that happen, because we would need the extra room from this project to allow that to occur. So that's just one observation out there. Otherwise, I mean, it's a difficult situation just due to the other limitations of access. But any comparison to AM, PM peak really doesn't help. I mean, that's a traditional traffic study analysis, and we're talking about peak times for lunch crowd and peak times for people going to these restaurants, and that's often occurring at different times of day. So, and then I'll also just tag on to the basically what you're hearing from a lot of the committee members here in Reston. we really try to reduce the heat island effect that any development's having on the community and in the world, per se. Anything we can do to establish green roofs, additional landscaping and green space, the pervious pavement that Dave Stigler mentioned is a good start. I question the area in between the dual drive-through. It looks like it's striped pavement. Could that actually be greenery, or instead of pavement that's striped, as a means to just get more or less pavement, less heat island, and try to cool, this entire site. I hear you that the roof might be a bit on the small side to consider a green roof, and just from a pure stormwater situation in Reston, we have terrible outfalls. The outfalls are pretty much very erosive, so we're finding a lot of the existing stormwater management facilities do not adequately handle the storm that was there before, and they're not going to handle it moving forward in the future. So that's why you're getting these type of comments. And even though this is a site that's on the smaller side, it does have, considerable amount of impervious area that's contributing to those outfalls. So that's my comments. So Doug, I don't know if to put you on the spot, but Doug Kennedy, if you have looked at that situation, since you said you were out on site and you witnessed the traffic that occurs out there in a more global sense. I'm not saying it's all Taco Bell. It's a more of a global thing, but does the idea of going further down Roger Bacon have any merit?
Rob, in looking at it, I think the original, I wasn't around when the original access was developed, but I obviously the idea of having traffic exit at the distance away was set up to make it easier to traffic to stack up to make the left turn to go south on Wheelie. My initial concern on thinking of making that two-way is we have the way the parking is set up, and we'd also have to go on the McDonald's property to widen at the entrance at Roger Bacon at that driveway. So it would take some joint effort, I think, to widen that entrance to make it a two-way street. But I hadn't thought about that. And I have seen the backups from the McDonald's, and no, I can't say it's, a certain percentage of McDonald's versus Taco Bell. But we can think about it. But I do think the way the access easements are set up, it is difficult to have two-way traffic on that southern or that eastern aisle, I guess.
Yeah, and just to be clear, Doug, I'm just talking about as you come in off of Roger Bacon, immediately turning right, and then it would then stay one way.
Okay.
That access aisle. So
just this area. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we can look at that. I think the issue would be some of it may come down to coordination with McDonald's, because our property is actually just only the pavement portion of that entrance.
Understand. Yep. No, I understand. Okay. Let me go to Commissioner Carter. John, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I had the same idea, Rob, and I think you should try that. It looks to me like the entrance is 20 feet, that would be adequate. It looks like the parking dimension is 20 feet. So instead of angled parking, you could do head-in parking. I don't know about the McDonald's side. You've got angled parking there too.
Yep.
So I think it'd be worth trying that and almost closing the existing entrance that you have, so that whole thing where you have to go through McDonald's to get to Taco Bell, I don't think that works very well. And it's very odd to have that. There's some other things. I think your drawing should have the WNOD trail on there. So we'd like to see that next time with the bridge. You seem to be aware of how it's working, so I would like to explore whether we could make that connection. That would be great for your restaurant. I think that patio is awfully small. I know you're not anticipating a lot of people outside, but this area is going to be changing pretty quickly, particularly over at Isaac Newton Square. There's going to be people walking over here. So I think that's awfully wimpy out there, and something could be done a little bit more about that. I don't know if anybody's mentioned the charging station. You don't want to do a charging station, even for the few people that are in there. I would think you could consider that. And I don't know, I'm struggling with, just putting back a drive-through restaurant pretty much the way it was, except, okay, so you have 2 lanes. Maybe there's something elaborate you could do with the landscaping. You do have some areas between the parking and the drive aisle, but something that would put this in the future of what Taco Bell might be like, rather than just sort of fixing up the past a little bit. So I think you're underrepresented in this, and we need to do something that would, just spreading a few trees around here. I don't think that does it quite yet. So anyway, I would look at that access and see if you can avoid McDonald's altogether. You can't avoid the exit there, but that midpoint seems very odd. Doing something with landscaping or charging stations or something that would bring this up into the future a little bit, and a little bit more obvious way for a pedestrian to get here. It's I know when you explain it, I get it, but maybe some landscaping, some street trees in there, something, and a little bit more in the patio. So anyway, those are my thoughts. But I would look at that circulation that Rob was talking about. I think that's worth a try.
Yeah, we'll certainly go ahead and take a look at it again. A couple different things like we've mentioned that we got to take into account, but doesn't get better if you don't take a look at it and give it a try. In terms of the patio, we do have a slight limit in terms of the number of seats that we can provide with the parking, but at the same time, I think that's really just a math problem. It's perhaps a matter of what's outside versus inside at a given point in time. And I do want to mention, in terms of the EV charging station, that is something we're looking at providing at least one of in the next iteration.
Yeah, that would be good. I think you're underrepresented here, and there's more things that you can do that are perhaps not so expensive, but it just seems like sort of more of the same, except for another. You have a double road there, so I think there's more you can do.
Landscaping is certainly something we can go back at, and kind of low-hanging fruit type thing.
Yeah, maybe the sidewalk to the trail would be worth considering. I don't know how far that is. I don't have a picture of that, but if you put it on your drawing, then at least you'd know. I would think that would have a lot of users coming that way.
Yeah, I don't. We can certainly talk offline about that. And I think having that connection to the trail is never a bad idea. We do have a series of sort of temporary easements there as well for the county project. So want to make sure the timing of that is respectful of the county's timing as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, certainly another thing we can look at.
And then how would you get to your store, even if you were on the trail? Sidewalk across there somehow. Anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Carter. I think we got through the committee members. The one public person in the public, I see Lynn Molstrom was on. I don't know, Lynn, if you have any. I don't see anything in the chat. Aren't any questions in the chat.
Nope, I'm good. Thank you. I'm just enjoying listening to the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Any final comments from members?
Yes, I would like to say, this is Tammy. I would absolutely get in touch with McDonald's. I think they would be thrilled not to have Taco Bell traffic clogging up their main entrance line to their drive-in. So I would think they would be thrilled to work with you to have your, you know, western north-south road be a two-way. So I would definitely look at that as well.
Yeah, I think
Thank
we're
you.
hearing pretty clearly. It's something we gotta take a look at.
Rob, this is Dick Kennedy. Just one very quick point is to reinforce the idea that in the next 5 or 10 years, we're going to have maybe 1,000 more people in across the street here, and there's going to be a lot of possibilities for walking, and I don't think that should be underestimated.
Yeah, no, it's a good point, Richard. So, you know, I guess in a way to summarize, you know, Matt and your team, I mean, you certainly, I think you guys have done a really good job here in your presentation and presenting what you have. And, you know, this area is going to change, and the comp plan shows it to change. Our Reston master plan has set aside a lot of goals for this area. You know, it's not going to happen overnight. We realize that there are businesses to run, there are rents to be paid, and in this, in my view, this is still an interim use to an ultimate area. But as many have pointed out, we're already going to see some immediate changes in and around this neighborhood that will bring an influx of residential folks that don't exist there today, but will be there in a couple of years. And so the dynamic of this whole area is going to quickly change. And we all just have to be mindful of that and be looking ahead enough to know how to respond to that change. And so that's a lot of the comments you're hearing tonight are coming from that context. So just, you know, we live and breathe it here every day. So we're passing that on to you all. So, but we thank you for your presentation tonight, and we look forward to you all coming back. And if you could remind us what your planning commission and your board dates are, and where you see yourself with a staff report and the like, that would be helpful.
Sure. So we are headed into our second submission, our post-staffing submission, so to say, by the end of the month. That would keep us on track for a projected planning commission date, I believe, of September 21st. Again, that's something of a moving target with summer break in August and all the rest of it. At the moment, we don't have a tentative date for the board, but our tentative date before the planning commission would be the late September meeting.
Okay, so I'm just trying to remember ahead here. Let me look at my calendar. We actually are meeting in August. I don't know if the committee knows that yet, but let me just try to get to our calendar here. So yeah, our September meeting is on the 19th of September. And then we do have a meeting on August 15th that I think at this present time does have an opening, but I don't know if that's too soon, but we'd like to get you back and, and get a vote for you prior to getting to the planning commission. That's for sure.
Of course. Yeah, we will certainly be planning on coming back. Some answers to the comments and questions we heard this evening. Obviously, forwarding any of the updates that we're making between now and the end of the month. And I think probably in response to any additional staff comments that we end up getting, but we've certainly appreciated the opportunity and the time to talk and present. A lot of good things to be thinking about as we head back into our resubmission.
And can I say one more thing, Matt? Please keep this committee apprised of the staff comments so that we know their concerns. Thank you.
Sure, of course.
Yes, and just to remind everybody, this is a special exception primarily for the drive-through use of the facility, where it's not a rezoning. It doesn't have new proffers or anything like that. It's not the special exceptions come with, a set of conditions, approval conditions, but it's a lot different than a lot of the development plans and rezonings that we've been seeing lately in the corridor. So there is a bit of a difference there to this type of application.
Yeah. And Tammy, just for your purposes, Damaris Martinez is our staff point of comment at ZED.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, with that, Matt, I'll let you and your team go. We again appreciate your time tonight and look forward to seeing you back here and sometime in the next month or two.
Yes, sir. Well, we appreciate the time. Like I said, we'll be seeing you all soon.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank
Have a good
you.
evening.
Have a good evening.
Thanks, you too. All right. Well, committee members, I'm not even sure we ended up with a quorum tonight, but we got pretty close. But again, we had a couple last minute cancellations. I don't have any other business tonight to go over just with our limited crowd, but would entertain a motion to adjourn unless anybody has anything to add.
Rob, this is Lynn. I've got a question for you all, and it's really more of asking for your help in how do I get your agenda out into at least the RCA or other civic organizations that are interested in the projects that are coming before you all, so that they're not getting it last minute. I don't know when you all get your materials. But we'd really like to be able to participate in RPZ meetings. But a lot of times the agenda is not even accessible. So I'm just wondering if you can help me help you. I would appreciate it.
No, that's a fair comment, Lynn. I think sometimes our agendas, we try to get them out 10 days in advance, and it doesn't always seem to work that way. And we try to post them on our website as the first point of, and we've been trying, the best thing we've been doing is getting through Supervisor Alcorn's office, and they've been posting that on their newsletter. But like I noticed when the RA newsletter came out this past week, there was no mention of our committee meeting, and that.
Right.
I need to make sure that gets changed. And so
Okay, well, anything that you can do to help me help you in communicating the meetings and the agenda items, I would appreciate. Thank you.
yeah, we've been a little lax at letting some applicants come up to the little bit later last minute type of timeframes, and we just we really can't afford to do that any longer. We have to get our we're supposed to have materials in front of us a week in advance, and the agenda should be set well ahead of that even. So
yeah, it would be a courtesy for any citizen input. So thank you.
I agree. All right, with that, do I hear
I
a
would
motion?
like to make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
You're muted, Rob.
I will accept that, and we will call it a night. I appreciate everybody's time tonight.
Thank you. Thanks, Sharuti.
Night, everybody.
Thanks.
Good night.